In the year 3174, Earth's violent history had long since faded into obscurity, the planet now a sanctuary of peace and culture within the greater intergalactic union known as the hegemony of celestials. Among the thousands of civilizations, Earth had gained a reputation as a haven for knowledge, creativity, and harmony. Yet, few in the stars knew that this tranquil planet was once the theater of unimaginable violence and destruction. It was a clear morning on the starship Luma, a vessel ferrying alien students from across the galaxy to their next educational stop, Earth. The ship glided silently through the inky darkness of space, its sleek hull reflecting the distant stars. The students aboard were from all corners of the universe, representing dozens of species with shimmering scales, translucent skin, multi-limbed bodies, and beings of pure energy. Despite their differences, they shared one common trait, a deep curiosity about humanity's culture, which was considered one of the most advanced and enlightened within the hegemony. Among these students was Neris, a bright and curious being from the planet Irex, a species known for their capacity for empathy and emotional connection. Neris had always been fascinated by Earth's art, literature, and music, especially the poetic works of a human named Maya Angelou, whose words had moved their hearts deeply. Alongside Neris was Zayla, a tall, slender creature from the water world of Timnir. Zayla's species had long ago eradicated conflict and found peace in collective thought and unity. The class aboard the Luma was taught by Professor Zelger, a wise and respected educator who had spent centuries studying the histories of various civilizations. As the ship neared Earth, Zelger prepared his students for the upcoming lesson, a deep dive into Earth's cultural and historical significance. Students, Zelger began, his voice resonating through the ship's common room, our next destination, Earth, is a place of great beauty, art, and peace. But what many of you may not know is that Earth was not always so. Humanity's past was turbulent, to say the least. Neris raised one of their many appendages. Professor, what do you mean by turbulent? Zelger sighed, his usually jovial demeanor shifting into something more somber. To understand Earth fully, you must first understand its past. While today it stands as a beacon of peace and collaboration, humanity's history is stained with war, suffering, and violence. It is a story of both the darkest and brightest aspects of existence. The room fell silent. Most of the students had assumed Earth was always a peaceful place. The notion that this cultural hub had once been embroiled in conflict was difficult to grasp. I will not simply tell you their history, Zelger continued. I want you to see it for yourselves. As the ship descended toward Earth, the students were connected to a vast holographic network that would allow them to experience Earth's history as though they were there. The technology was sophisticated, blending sight, sound, and emotion into an immersive experience. Zelger initiated the sequence, and in an instant, the students found themselves standing in a primitive landscape. Neris looked around. Their many eyes scanning the horizon. The scene was jarring. Humans clad in rudimentary armor clashed with one another in brutal combat. The air was thick with dust, the sounds of war filling the atmosphere with a cacophony of screams, metal clashing, and the pounding of hooves. Blood soaked the ground as warriors fell in battle. Neris felt a wave of horror wash over them. Zayla recoiled as the brutality of the scene unfolded. Why? Why are they doing this? Zayla whispered, their usually calm demeanor replaced with shock. Why would any species do this to one another? Zelger's voice echoed within the experience, though his figure was nowhere to be seen. This is but one moment in Earth's violent history. For centuries, humans fought for territory, power, resources, often at great cost to their own species. The scene shifted, and now the students were in a different era, a vast cityscape, bombarded by explosions and fire. The buildings crumbled to dust as planes dropped bombs from the sky. Below, people screamed and ran for cover, while others were locked in endless battle. The destruction seemed senseless, the loss of life staggering. This is the era known as World War II, Zelger explained. A global conflict that took millions of lives, caused immeasurable suffering. and forever changed the course of human history. Neris felt tears welling up within them. How could they endure this? How did they ever recover from such horror? Zelger's tone softened. Humans are resilient. For all their capacity for violence, they also possess an extraordinary ability to heal, to rebuild, and to change. This war was a turning point, after which many began to question the very nature of violence and war. Though it would not be the last conflict, it set in motion a series of changes that would eventually lead humanity down a different path. The scene shifted once again, and now the students were in the midst of a protest, a peaceful demonstration in the streets of a large city. Signs held by humans advocated for equality, justice, and peace. The faces of the demonstrators were filled with determination, and the atmosphere, though tense, was filled with hope. This, Zelger said, was a moment from what humans called the civil rights movement. After centuries of division, inequality, and discrimination, humans began to rise against injustice, not with violence, but with peace and unity. Zayla, who had struggled to understand the need for conflict, finally spoke. So, it was possible for them to change. Even after all the suffering. Zelger's voice carried a note of pride. Yes. The humans discovered that their greatest strength lay not in their capacity for destruction, but in their ability to unite, to forgive, and to seek a better world. It took time, and there were many setbacks along the way, but they began to build a future not based on fear, but on cooperation. The final scene unfolded before the students. This time, they stood in a vast, open landscape where humans and aliens stood side by side. Earth had become a sanctuary, a place where species from across the stars came to learn, to share, and to build together. The violent past had become a distant memory, a lesson to be remembered but never repeated. Neris, overwhelmed by the depth of the experience, turned to Zayla. I didn't know they had suffered so much. I always saw them as this peaceful, enlightened people. Zayla nodded, still processing what they had witnessed. It seems their peace was earned, not given. Maybe that's why they value it so much now. Zelger reappeared before the students as the holographic experience ended. Now you understand, he said softly. Earth's past was not easy. But it is because of that past that they have become what they are today, a civilization that values peace above all else. They have learned from their mistakes and have dedicated themselves to ensuring that future generations never repeat the same errors. The students remained quiet as the ship descended toward Earth, each lost in their thoughts. The planet, with its lush greenery, sparkling oceans, and bustling cities, now held new meaning for them. It was a place of redemption, where a species had risen from the ashes of its own destruction to become a beacon of hope for the universe. As the ship touched down, Neris looked out at the landscape with new appreciation. Earth's past may have been violent, but its future, its present, was one of peace and unity. And that, perhaps, was the greatest lesson they had learned. When the students disembarked, Neris whispered to Zayla, I think I understand now. Their strength isn't in their history, but in what they chose to do with it. Zayla smiled, a rare gesture for their kind. Yes, Neris. They turned their darkness into light. Perhaps we can learn from that too. And so, the alien students set foot on Earth, eager to learn not just from its present, but from its complex and difficult past, stunned, yet inspired by the resilience of the human spirit.